The crash in the sky. The sky burned with fire. A small human spaceship was falling fast, breaking into pieces as it crashed through the strange planet's atmosphere. The pilot, a young man named Jake, held onto his seat, teeth clenched, heart pounding. Red warning lights blinked all around him. The control system was dead. The ship was spinning. He had no choice but to pray. Then came the impact. Boom! Everything went dark. When Jake opened his eyes, everything hurt. He lay on the broken floor of the ruined ship. Sparks flew above him. The air was filled with smoke and dust. He coughed hard and slowly sat up, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. His ship was destroyed. The escape beacon was smashed. The radio didn't work. He was alone. Jake stepped out of the wreckage. The world outside was strange and silent. 2 suns hung in the greenish sky. Giant trees rose all around, tall, twisted, glowing slightly in the shade. The ground was soft and full of strange plants. A light blue fog curled between the roots. His oxygen scanner blinked. Breathable air. Unknown life forms. Stay alert. He grabbed his small survival bag and started walking, hoping to find clean water or a place to rest. But he didn't know he was being watched. High above, hidden in the thick trees, alien eyes followed him. A group of silent hunters moved through the branches like shadows. Their skin was smooth and tinted with gold. Their eyes were sharp and glowing like crystals. They wore no armor, only soft cloth and markings on their skin. They spoke no words, but they studied him carefully. "He's real," whispered one. "We haven't seen a man in decades," said another. "The prophecy warned us," said the oldest of them. "A man falls from the sky, and everything changes." Jake found a small stream and splashed water on his face. He drank and sighed. He looked at the distant mountain peaks and said, "If I climb high enough, maybe I can find a signal." Suddenly, a twig snapped behind him. He turned. No one. He drew his emergency blade and slowly stepped back. His eyes scanned the trees, but the silence returned. Too perfect, too still. "I'm not alone," he whispered. He kept moving, deeper into the jungle. He saw glowing insects, animals with many legs, and trees that seemed to move when he wasn't looking. Strange bird-like creatures flew overhead, their wings making no sound. His legs grew, weak. His stomach rumbled. He hadn't eaten since the crash. As night fell, he built a small fire with dry roots and wrapped himself in a heat blanket. He stared into the flames. "I have to survive. Someone will find me. Earth Command will come." But even as he said it, doubt filled his heart. In the trees, the alien women watched the fire. They had never seen such a flame. Their world had no technology like the humans. One of the younger women, Rella, looked at Jake with wide eyes. "He looks scared," she said. "He is dangerous," the older hunter replied. "He is still a man, but he is weak, alone. Even a weak man can destroy a strong tribe." They turned away, moving through the trees silently, but Rella stayed. She kept watching. At midnight, Jake heard whispers in the wind. Leaves rustled. He sat up and grabbed his blade. "Who's there?" he shouted. Silence. He stood slowly, heart racing. The fire had burned low. Shadows moved between the trees. Then a stone flew from the dark and hit his head. Everything went black again. When Jake woke up, his hands were tied, and he was being carried through the jungle. The air was thick. Drums beat softly in the distance. He looked up, and what he saw made his heart freeze. Dozens of alien women surrounded him. They had spears. They wore strange jewelry. Their eyes glowed in the dark, and their leader, taller than the rest with long silver hair and golden skin, stood before him. She looked into his eyes and said something in a deep, musical alien language. Jake didn't understand the words, but he understood the look. He was not welcome, and he was not safe. Jake's head throbbed with pain. He woke up slowly, still dizzy. His hands were tied behind his back with soft but strong vines. His ankles, too. He was being dragged by two tall alien women through the thick jungle. Their faces were calm but cold. Not angry, just silent. Jake tried to speak. "Please, I don't want trouble. I'm lost." They didn't answer. They didn't even look at him. The tribe moved like ghosts. No sound, no talking. Their steps were light, their eyes always watching. After hours of walking, the trees finally opened. Before Jake stood something incredible, a hidden village carved into the side of a massive cliff, glowing with soft blue crystals. Homes were made from vines and rock, hanging like nests from the canyon walls. Fire pits burned with strange green flames. The scent in the air was sweet and spicy, and everywhere he looked, only women. No men, not one. They stopped at the center of the village. A crowd gathered quickly. Dozens of alien women circled him, staring at him with wide eyes. Some looked curious. Some looked angry. Some whispered to each other in their language. Jake could feel their confusion. And something else. Fear. A path opened in the crowd. A woman stepped forward. She was taller than the rest, her golden skin painted with dark symbols. She wore a long robe made of shining feathers. Her eyes were like glowing blue fire. She was the leader. The crowd went silent. She raised her hand and spoke in her language. Jake didn't understand the words, but he felt the weight of her voice. Power. Command. Judgment. Then she stepped closer. She looked into his eyes, and he felt like she could see his thoughts. The leader spoke again, this time to the others. Her tone was sharp and firm. Some of the tribe shouted back. An argument. Jake heard the word Zareen, repeated again and again. Then Vitar. And then a word he recognized. Man. They were talking about him. He felt his chest tighten. Would they kill him? Use him? Set him free? Suddenly, a younger woman ran forward. It was the same girl who had watched him before. Her name was Rella. She dropped to her knees in front of the leader and spoke quickly, begging. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked. She pointed at Jake, then at her own chest. The leader paused. Then, slowly, she nodded. Jake was dragged to a small stone hut at the edge of the village. They tied him to a post inside. The walls were painted with strange images, stories maybe. He saw a figure falling from the sky. Fire, a man with glowing eyes, a village burning. He didn't like the last part. Outside, the sounds of drums started. Not loud, slow, deep. Ceremony? Jake sat still. He was tired, cold, scared, but also curious. Why no men? Why did Rella speak up for him? What were they planning? Hours passed. The door opened. Rella entered, holding a bowl of thick, warm soup. She didn't speak at first. She just looked at him, her big eyes full of caution. Then slowly she sat beside him. "I try speak," she said in broken English. "I learn old books. Crash ship." Jake's eyes widened. "You understand me?" She smiled a little. Small. Not much. He leaned forward. "Please, why am I here? What is this place?" She looked down, thinking hard. Then she said, "We are last. No man come, in many, many years. Men all gone. Dead." Jake's heart dropped. Rella added quietly, "You are first." Outside, the drums stopped. Suddenly there was shouting. Rella jumped to her feet. "No, not now," Jake struggled. "What's happening?" The door opened again. This time 2 guards entered. One grabbed Jake, the other pushed Rella aside. "Wait, stop," she cried. But they didn't stop. Jake was dragged into the open again, this time to a raised stone platform at the village center. Torches burned all around. The whole tribe had gathered, and at the center stood the leader, the high priestess. She raised her hand and the crowd fell silent. Then she pointed at Jake and made a slicing motion across her neck. Jake stood on the stone platform, his heart pounding like thunder. Torches flickered all around. The alien women stared at him with cold eyes, some full of fear, some full of hate, and others unreadable. The high priestess stood tall before him. She spoke loudly in her alien language, her voice sharp like a blade. The tribe answered in one loud chant, "Zareen! Zareen!" Jake didn't know what the word meant, but it felt dangerous. Suddenly the priestess pulled a glowing blade from her robe and held it to the sky. The crowd went silent. She stepped toward Jake, but she didn't strike. She cut the ropes from his arms. Jake stumbled, confused. "You're letting me go?" Rella ran forward from the crowd. "Not go. You take trial." "Trial?" Jake asked. "For what?" She looked at him with sad eyes. "To see if you bring danger or hope." The crowd stepped back as Rella led him down the steps. She whispered, "Long ago, one man came. He tricked tribe, brought fire. Many die. Now, they test you. Mind, heart, truth." Jake looked around, nervous. "And if I fail?" Rella didn't answer. They took him to a cave deep behind the cliffs. Inside were glowing crystals, strange paintings, and a circle drawn in white ash. In the center stood 3 stones. "Sit," the priestess ordered. Jake obeyed. Around him, the older women stood in a circle. They began chanting in low, deep tones. Rayla stood at the edge, watching nervously. The priestess stepped into the circle and placed her hands on Jake's chest. He felt a sudden rush of heat through his body. His heartbeat slowed, his vision blurred, and suddenly, memories not his own filled his mind. He saw a man, tall, strong, dark-haired, standing in the village long ago. The women welcomed him. They smiled, laughed. But the man's smile was fake. He stole from them, betrayed them, burned their sacred tree. Jake saw pain, fire, screams. Then he saw himself falling from the sky. But this time, his body was glowing, and the tribe was kneeling before him. A vision of the future. The high priestess removed her hands. The circle broke. The flames in the cave turned blue, and everyone stared at Jake. Even she looked shaken. Jake gasped and fell forward, sweating. The priestess whispered to Rella. Her voice was low and unsure. Rella turned to Jake and said, "She sees something inside you, not full human." Jake blinked. "What?" Rayla nodded. "Your blood carries old light from stars." "What does that mean?" She hesitated. "I think you are part of prophecy." Back at the village, things had changed. Some women bowed their heads when he passed. Others turned away. Whispers spread like wind through leaves. Jake was taken to a different hut. Not a prison this time, but still guarded. Food was brought. Softer clothes. Clean water. But Jake couldn't sleep. He looked at the stars above and whispered, "Why me? I'm just a technician, not a savior." The next day, Rella visited him alone. She carried a small carved stone in her hand. It was shaped like a star. "Mother, give this to me," she said. "Told me, when Starman comes, show him." Jake held it. It felt warm. "It matches the shape of the ship I came in," he said softly. She smiled. "Maybe not mistake. You fall here." He looked into her eyes. "Do you believe I'm the one they waited for?" Rella didn't answer, but her hand stayed in his. That night, something happened. A loud horn echoed across the village. Fires were lit. Women screamed. Guards rushed to the edges of the cliffs. Jake ran out of the hut, Rella behind him. Down below the cliffs, dark shapes were moving through the forest. Not animals, not women. Men, alien men, wild-looking with sharp weapons and red eyes. They were coming fast. Rella grabbed Jake's arm. They are not like us. They come to take. Kill. Jake clenched his fists. He had no weapon. But he had fire. And a plan. The ground shook with each step of the invaders. From the cliff edge, Jake saw them clearly. Dark-skinned alien men with war paint across their faces. Their armor was made of bones. Their eyes glowed red under the twin moons. And they were carrying fire, Rayla whispered in fear. They are the forgotten males. Cast out. Long ago. Dangerous. Jake turned to her. What do they want? They come to take everything. Food. Women. Power. The alien tribe scrambled to prepare. Spears were handed out. Young women ran to hide the children. The high priestess stood firm, her staff raised high, her voice commanding. But Jake noticed the fear in their eyes. These women hadn't fought in generations. They didn't have soldiers. They had tradition. Jake looked around. Where are your defenses? Rella replied. We have the cliff and the courage of mothers. Jake shook his head. That won't be enough. He remembered the tools in his crashed ship. Parts of engines, batteries, fire gel. If he could reach the wreck, maybe he could make something. Jake grabbed Rella's arm. I need to go. Back to the crash site. She looked shocked. Too far, too dangerous. I have things there. I can build weapons, maybe traps, something to stop them. Rella hesitated, then nodded. I come with you. No, he said. I need you here. If they reach the village before me, protect the others. He ran toward the jungle, heart racing. Behind him, the drums of war grew louder. Hours passed. Jake crawled through vines, pushed through mud, and finally reached the crash site. The wreckage still smoked. He rushed inside, grabbed wires, fuel, and small explosives from the engine. He worked fast. His hands burned and cut, but he didn't stop. He built simple traps with fire gel and tripwires, spears that launched with tension springs, a flash bomb made from his emergency beacon. As the sun began to rise, he ran back. But back at the village, time was running out. The outcast males had climbed the cliffs. They stood near the edge now, shouting insults and threats. The high priestess spoke calmly. This is sacred land, leave now. One of the males laughed. No man tells us what to do, and you have no men. Then a loud, angry voice rose from the crowd. Yes, we do. Jake stepped forward, covered in dirt, holding a burning torch. I'm the man. Gasps spread through the women. The males froze, staring at him. Jake walked slowly between the tribes toward the invaders. You want to fight someone? Fight me, one of the males laughed. You're alone. Jake smiled. Try me. He stepped on a hidden trigger. Boom. A fireball shot up from the cliffside. The males jumped back. Then another. Flash and smoke exploded near them. One of them screamed as a spear trap pierced his leg. Chaos broke out. Jake shouted to the women. Now! They rushed in, pushing the invaders back with spears and stones. For the first time, the tribe fought together, with courage and fire. The battle didn't last long. Jake's traps scared the males. The women's unity drove them off. Soon the jungle was silent again. Rella ran to Jake, eyes full of tears. You came back. He smiled, falling to his knees. Didn't want to miss the fun? The high priestess approached him slowly. Her face was unreadable. She raised her hand, and the village held its breath. Then she bowed her head. You are not a curse, she said. You are our test, and you passed. Later that night, the village held a silent gathering around the sacred tree. Jake stood beside Rella, looking up at the stars. She whispered, The tribe is changing because of you. Jake replied softly, I didn't come here to change anything. I just wanted to survive. She looked at him. But sometimes, survival means helping others live too. He nodded, unsure of what came next. But for the first time he felt like he belonged, not just as a man lost in space, but as something more. Days had passed since the battle. The tribe was quiet now. The smoke had cleared, but a heavy silence stayed. Everyone looked at Jake differently. Not with fear anymore, but not fully with trust either. He had saved them. That was true. But some still whispered, "What if he brings more danger?" Even the high priestess had doubts in her eyes. One morning, Rella came to Jake's hut. Her face was pale. She held a small stone pendant in her hand, shaped like a broken heart. "They want you to take the final trial," she said softly. Jake stood still. "I thought I already passed." She shook her head. "Not of strength. Not of fire. This trial is of the heart." He looked at her. "What does that mean?" Rayla whispered. "You must face your truth. No lies, no hiding. They will see who you really are." That evening, the tribe gathered in the sacred cave once again. This time Jake walked in alone. The cave was lit with glowing crystals. A single pool of silver water sat at the center. The high priestess stood beside it, her long robe trailing behind her. She spoke, voice calm but cold. "Step into the pool of memory." Jake removed his shoes and stepped into the water. It was warm, almost too warm. Suddenly the cave darkened, the pool began to glow, and then the visions began. Jake saw himself as a child on Earth, sitting alone, watching stars through a window. His parents were arguing, his mother cried, his father left. He saw his time at the Space Academy, quiet, forgotten, always working, always alone. He saw the crash, the jungle, Rella's eyes, the tribe's fear, the battle, and then a strange image. Jake stood in the same cave, but everything around him was glowing gold. The tribe bowed before him. The stars above opened into a path. Rella stood beside him, older, wiser, holding his hand. Then it all faded. Jake fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't brave. He had just been so alone for so long. And now? He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to lose them. Not Rayla. Not the tribe. Not the strange, broken beauty of this planet. The high priestess stepped forward. She touched his shoulder. "You carry pain," she said, "but also something rare, something we forgot long ago." Jake looked up, surprised. "What?" She smiled slightly. "Hope." Outside, the tribe waited in silence. When Jake walked out, the high priestess raised her staff. "He has passed," the women whispered in awe. Rella ran to him and hugged him tightly. "You stayed true." Jake smiled, breath shaky. "It almost broke me." She looked into his eyes, but it didn't. That night, a quiet celebration was held. No loud music, no dancing, just stories. The tribe sat around the fire as the elders spoke of the past, of the last man who had betrayed them, and the one who had returned to protect. One elder said, "Perhaps it was not a curse, but a lesson." Another added, "And maybe this time the stars sent us a different kind of man." Jake sat beside Rella, watching the fire. She leaned on his shoulder. "You changed something," she whispered. Jake looked around. "They changed me too." He thought about Earth. The cold lights, the empty cities, the loneliness. Here, he had no technology, no future, no home. But here, in this forgotten tribe of alien women, he had found something he never expected, a reason to stay. Morning light touched the cliffs of the village. Birds with crystal wings flew through the trees. The wind carried the scent of blooming fireflowers. But something in the air had changed. Peace. For the first time in years, the alien tribe felt truly safe. And it was because of one man. Jake woke to the sound of laughter outside his hut. Alien children were playing near the stream, pretending to fight with wooden spears. One of the girls shouted, "I'm Jake, the fire warrior." The others giggled. He stepped outside, smiling. Some women nodded at him, others bowed lightly. Even the elders, who once feared him, now welcomed him with calm eyes. But Jake didn't care about titles or power. He cared about one face. Rella. She met him near the sacred tree. Her hands held a bundle of folded cloth. "A gift," she said softly. Jake opened it. Inside was a robe, woven from soft plant fibers, decorated with blue beads and silver threads. At the center was a small symbol stitched by hand. 2 stars crossing. Jake's voice trembled. "What does it mean?" Rayla smiled. "You are one of us now." The high priestess called for a gathering at the sunset cliff. Everyone came. The air was quiet. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with pink and gold. Jake stood before them in the new robe. The priestess raised her voice. "This man came from the stars. We feared him. We tested him. We saw his truth." She paused, then placed her staff at his feet. "And now, we name him Zatarin, the chosen flame." The crowd bowed. Jake felt his throat tighten. He never asked to be a hero, but they had made him one. Later that night, Rella found him sitting alone near the glowing river. He was staring at the stars. "Are you thinking of going back?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "There's no ship, no signal, no one coming for me." She sat beside him. "And if they did?" He looked at her. "I'd stay." She blushed, but didn't look away. Then she reached into her pouch and pulled out something small. Shiny. It was a ring. Not made of metal, but carved from the crystal roots of the sacred tree. She placed it in his hand. Jake stared at it, stunned. She whispered, "In our tribe, when 2 hearts stay beside each other after the trial of fire, we bind them." His heart raced. "Are you sure?" he asked. Rella smiled. "The tribe no longer fears the man, and I never did." The next day, the village worked together like never before. Women rebuilt homes, children helped plant food, and Jake taught them how to build water filters, solar, cookers, and signal lights using old ship parts. He didn't rule them. He walked with them. He became part of the rhythm of the tribe, stronger, wiser, and no longer a stranger. One evening, the high priestess, now older and quieter, gave him her final words. "Long ago a man brought pain, but now a man has brought light. You have changed our future." Jake bowed. "You changed mine." And so the story of a lost human, once broken, alone, and unwanted, became legend. The alien women who feared him now called him family. The tribe that hid from the stars now looked up with hope. And the girl who once watched him in secret now held his hand as they walked the same path together, in a world with no maps, in a tribe with no men. One human had fallen from the sky and became the heart of a new beginning.